Adventure Cafe presents. I'm Christine Dunn. Joining me here today is Jacquie Kay. She's a managing partner of the Sun Walking Group, which helps to connect the social impact community with innovation ecosystems. Thanks so much for joining me here today.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
So tell me, what is an innovation ecosystem?
I just learned about it when I came here. The innovation ecosystem, from what I understand, is where all the things that are happening with technology, whether it be innovation or hardware or software or people who are trying to be entrepreneurial, that this is a world where everybody comes to, and you can find these sorts of people here. There are also a lot of investors who are interested in what's out there in the world and what's going on in technology and innovation. So it's a foreign world to many people.
Now, you have kind of a long history of working with social impact. Can you talk a little bit about how you bring those two different areas together?
Sure. Let's see. First of all, we don't call it social impact. I think that's part of the problems that I'm seeing with the world of the innovation ecosystem and social impact. Because social impact is really the real world, what's going on out there, the problems with climate change, economic development, things that have to do with disaster relief and trying to deal with getting a job, getting educated. This is the real world. And what I'd like to do is to bring that world together with this innovation ecosystem so that people out there don't see it as an ivory tower or modern or something they can't relate to. I really am interested in blending those two worlds so that the innovation ecosystem sees the community as a touchstone for them, or where they're really touching base with certain realities for their innovations, for their entrepreneurial efforts, and where the community doesn't see them as techie types or academic types. I mean, these are all the issues that I've always faced going out there, working all over the world.
And your organization right now does work in both the local level as well as the global level. Can you start by telling us a little bit about, you have a living lab project here in Massachusetts, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that project and how you're kind of formulating your ideas for that?
Sure. I like the words global and local and how they've always been separated. And again, this is me trying to connect worlds again. I walk around now saying glocal. And that way people will just say, what did you just say? Oh, well, I mix the world of local and global. And I think that's really important because that's another one of those things that have separated us. What we do in the States as compared to what happens out in the other world, it's all the same. We're all part of this global village. So, your question again?
The Living Lab project. So you have a specific project going out here in Massachusetts.
Right. Okay, when I first started this company, I didn't know anything about energy and the environment. And my whole world was to try to learn about this because I felt this has something to do with the future. And I needed to bring it into the reality of the real world, the local world. And so the Living Systems Lab, I gotta remember where I am here. The Living Systems Lab was a project out in Central Mass. And I didn't even know there was a Central Mass. I know there's a Western Mass and then there's Eastern Mass, Massachusetts. But anyways, with Central Mass, it was like I could have been going to Mongolia and checking out the Amur River as compared to the Blackstone River. I'd never been along there. I'd never been to Central Mass. So for me, it was like just a whole new world. So I go out there because I'm on the board of the Conservation Law Foundation with this person who owns 30 acres of contaminated land. Now that's kind of a juxtaposition unto itself, or contradiction. But he cleaned up the land, and then he also cleaned up the Blackstone River corridor, which runs right alongside of the land. And he cleaned that with what they call in this innovation ecosystem a bioremediation system. And all that is using mushrooms to clean the water, and then the water comes through is filtered through the mushrooms, and then we can get clean water to drink and grow plants, and that's exactly what's happening out there. So he had this, and he's saying, I want to create a living habitat for natural and humans. And so with the natural, we were cleaning up the river and we're able to do that. The human side meant that he had to clean up that land so that we could do affordable housing, assisted living. I suggested a cidery to him because there's a lot of apples around there. I mean, a lot of abandoned apple trees. We could make cider. He wanted to do a brewery. We could do a farm-to-table restaurant or some kind of cafe there so that the local produce could start. So I'm always mixing the world of economics with environment so that we don't see that split either.
Right, and create really a sustainable community out of these efforts.
Exactly. Good.
Now, from Massachusetts, your work can extend even to the far reaches of the earth.
Right.
Outside to Palau. Tell us a little bit
Palau.
about
People go, Palau, where's that? Well, it's way out there by the Philippines, and it's a part of the U.S. It's a freely associated state of USA. And so we support it. They get their monies from the Department of Interior, the Department of State, and all of that. And I had a contract there with my old company that I ran, where we were helping them do export marketing in tourism and the fisheries. And so many years ago, as I was forming this company, I contacted someone out there and I said, we could use some work. What's going on out there? And they go, well, we're not sure. The Chinese have taken over the sea cucumber industry and wiped it out. So we don't have any more sea cucumbers to grow. That was a $5 million industry at that time, and now we're trying to restore things to the reefs. And then he says, but I'm interested in mangrove crabs or mud crabs out here because we can feed the people here in the Pacific with that. And so I said, well, let's do an R&D project on this and get moving here, and we can get you some R&D monies for this. And so that proposal has gone to Washington now, and we're going to be hopefully working on that. So it's bridging the old and the new, getting people to start talking in common terms where we're talking about analytics and metrics in a way that it makes sense with mud crabs and sea cucumbers.
So when you're looking at these different projects, I'm sure that as much as there might be differences between the projects, there must also be some kind of common lessons learned. So if you had to identify a few of those lessons learned, what would they be?
Most people don't know the language of what the donor agency or the multilateral organization is that is going to give them money. So that's why it was really important to begin to educate folks about this new language of innovation, ecosystems, energy in the environment. And for me, there were three key words that I felt I could relate it back to communities. One was sustainability. And everyone agreed that they cared about the environment and that they cared, almost more so than talking about energy, but that they could relate to sustaining that. They could also relate to sustaining it financially. So one thing in common was, how do you write a proposal so that we can sustain the projects that we're doing and also know how to write it in the language of the people. Another word was adaptation. Another word was resilience. And so I wound up picking up on the word resilience, and that becomes a human thing as well, because it takes the resilience of the human person the human condition to be able to fight off the human condition. So yeah, so one thing was certainly the language. Two was, how do you sustain a project? Everybody wanted to know how that works. The third was, where do we find financing? And that's where I can bridge both the public and the private sector and help these people just, sorry, I didn't mean to use these people, I mean me. Help us be able to really be able to get money and understand each other's worlds.
In addition to your own business, you serve as a mentor here to people of the Venture Cafe. Can you talk a little bit about being a mentor, why you decided to become one, and what you hope the community gets out of the mentorship program here?
Okay, I'll take that backwards. What I don't even need to hope what the community gets out of the mentorship program. I think it's fabulous. People walk in and they don't know, for example, that fellow who just walked in earlier, you know, where's the Venture Cafe? You're in it. Welcome, buddy. And people walk in and they don't know where to begin in this innovation ecosystem. And to be able to just walk up to somebody or sign up with a mentor, it becomes really, you know, they already feel like they have a connection. So one is the connection that people can have who don't know what's going on. You know, at least, well, we can talk to a mentor because they should know something. Secondly, we all have our special skills. And so we really do help people who want to start businesses and really help them understand what's going on. I found out the one negative thing in meeting all of these, a common thing that keeps happening every time I meet the young people or people who are into startups, is that they really don't understand the concept of business. They understand their product or their innovation or their idea, but and sometimes they don't even understand that. But the concept of entering into the private sector and the business world, it's new to them. I mean, most of them don't even know that, you know, they need to have a business plan. And they go, no, nowadays we don't need a business plan. You know, we just have to have a pitch deck. I said, well, you need it for yourself. You know, maybe you don't need it for your funders, but or people are going to back you. But you really have to have a sense of that. A lot of them aren't incorporated. You know, they just said, we formed a business and this is what we're doing. Here's my CEO, my CTO, my CFO, and my COO. And I said, great, you know, and tell me about your company. It's called VARX. I said, oh, okay. So I go online, check out, VARX is already a company, and it's not them. So little things like that were, you know, nothing major. We don't change the world, but we can contribute little things. I heard about the mentorship program when I first came up here because I had reached a point in visiting the program where they said, time for you to give back. And I said, well, what can I give? And they said, well, tell us about yourself. And so the final comment was, well, you obviously are a woman of color. But the first one was that I ran a company for 35 years, that I'm into education, that I'm into environment and energy, that I did international development work. And so it was like, oh, we don't have any of that here, because it's not been part of the innovation ecosystem. So now, so here I am, right here in the innovation ecosystem.
When you're working with the entrepreneurs, I think it's fascinating that you point out that you can be an entrepreneur and have no concept of business.
Yeah.
And that's a real, I think that that's a very true statement, because I think that there are a lot of people who are great at innovating things, but actually taking that and commercializing that is a completely different step.
Exactly.
If you had to kind of identify a couple tips that you would give people today, other than make sure you have a business plan, what other tips would you recommend?
Well, ironically, communication is really key. I mean, I know that's what you do. I'm not trying to tell you.
I don't know what you're talking about, Jackie.
But communication is key, and marketing. I mean, they think, and their competition, they have no sense of that part of their business. They think everybody is going to want what they've created because what they've created is just the most important thing in the world. And it may change human lives. It may have social impact. But that doesn't mean a thing if you just don't have some basics. So, yes, that I say that.
Well, to me, that's a very interesting point, just because one of the things I noticed doing a lot of different kinds of communication work is that when people are looking at competition in their industry, they will often look at it from a product or business perspective, but not look at it from the communications perspective. And I think that that's a key hole in a lot of business strategies and business plans.
And then they think they know marketing because they're just going to sell. But marketing isn't about selling. You know, it really is, that's part of it. But maybe someone doesn't like your style, you know. Maybe they don't want to hear it from you like that. Maybe they don't understand the innovation technology world, and so it doesn't make sense. I think the best example is the engineers I keep running into. And I don't mean to downplay engineers, but it's really hard sometimes for them to get beyond. It's really hard for them when they use their language to think that we might not understand. You should understand. I'm being as clear as I can. Okay, good. We use the word network, and my idea of a network is very different than your idea of a network. Yours is, you know, very much wires. And I think the best word is when someone said, "You're a super connector." I said, "Yeah, I know that." And he said, "No, you really are a super connector." I said, "Yes." And what he meant was that there is a term in the engineering world about being a super connector, and it's a special kind of wiring or something. You know, and once he explained that to me, then and then he said he could code it. I thought, oh well, great. Then you just go right ahead. I have no idea how to code it, and that'd be great if you can. You know, I said, so are you cloning me? And he said, no, I just think I can code what you are doing to connect.
Oh, interesting.
And it's because he understood the super connector concept. I didn't. Great, good. What do you need from me? So, yeah.
Great. Well, Jackie, I want to thank you for joining us here today on Venture Cafe Presents.
Okay, well, thank you. I'm glad to be here. I wish you well in your business. I think Venture Cafe itself is a brilliant idea, and I'm just spreading the word to everyone. To come on over.
Give it a try.
Give it a try.
For the Venture Cafe Presents, I'm Christine Dunn.